Kim Jewell.
Good morning, Darene. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So I'm just going to read my little blurb here. So I'm a FasterEFt eutaptics practitioner, and I am kind of like an architect of the mind. I go into your mental landscape and heal the root causes of past pain and trauma, and clearing away all that brings you freedom, health, and authentic living. So today I have beautiful Kim with me. Now she is a master in FasterEFt eutaptics, linguistic programming. She's also a drug and alcohol certified counselor, amongst many other things. She's been in the healing industry for about 30 years, and I've brought her on here today because my interviews are all about finding people in the healing industry who are doing amazing things, have got things to teach us, and we can get in on it, hear their wisdom and take away into our lives, whether you're a practitioner or whether you someone at home. Like at the moment I'm running a 21-day tapping challenge, and I have a group who I'm sharing information with. So I find it very exciting. So Kim, enough talking from me. I'd like to hear from you. What has your journey been like, your personal journey to health and healing?
Great question. It's been an adventure, and it's been a long adventure. I think, Darene, just to give you a little bit of background on me, I was born into a family of 10 kids. I was the sixth child. From the time that I was 3 years of age, I was diagnosed with hyperactivity, dyspraxia, dyslexia, dysgraphia. And by the time I was 6, I got put on Ritalin for kids that have hyperactivity or ADHD. And that was kind of the beginning of what I like to call the end, or the beginning of the beginning. Because from there, I had quite a few traumas happen to me. My mother almost died in childbirth. There was sexual abuse in my background. So by the time I was 14, I found drugs and alcohol, and it just took away the pain and made me feel normal. The best way I can describe it is that the first time I tried them, I felt my whole body calm down, and I just felt like I thought everybody else was feeling. So that was a fast track into becoming an alcoholic and a drug addict. And that went on until my father passed away when I was 24 at the dinner table, and I happened to be sitting there. And it was a huge shock to my system. I had cleaned myself up for a week. I ended up picking up the alcohol again, but I knew it was the end. I knew that I needed to do something. So from there I went and I did a 12-step program, which saved my life, basically. Saved my life. And I loved it. Thought that this was it. Now I'm free. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be joyous. And what ended up happening was I met my husband and got married, and all the happiness and joy and the freedom seemed to crash because my panic and my anxiety came rushing back. And it was pretty horrendous for probably 5 or 6 years. And then my little brother passed away. He had HIV and lung cancer. When he passed away, what happened to me was I found myself in a corner, rocking back and forth because I wanted to use. And I knew if I left the room, I would pick up a drug or I'd pick up a drink. And I had 3 small kids at this point. And I was devastated, to say the least. I was like, how is this happening? I'm 12 years clean and sober. This should not be happening. I know it's emotional. I know it's grief, but I don't understand how this is happening. And so it took almost the whole day before I could leave the room till that feeling passed. And when I got up, I went, that's it. I'm going to find out what this is about. And I started at that point volunteering at drug and alcohol, found out I was really good at it, went back, became a drug and alcohol counselor, started working in the drug and alcohol field. And in that field, I discovered this is about trauma. And it started all to piece together for me at that point. I'm like, this is about emotions and trauma. And so I went on this quest at that point to start learning everything I could. And I kind of took a left turn from the medical model at that point. And so I studied under Brandon Bays under a modality called The Journey, which was a beautiful introduction to working with people. And having Brandon as a mentor was amazing because I still use some of the wisdom that she taught me at that point. From there, I went on to study NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, became a master practitioner, and then went on to become a trainer for NLP. That intrigued me so much, I went on and learned the hypnotherapy and got really excited about hypnotherapy and how that could help people change. And while I was studying, I came across one of Robert's videos from FasterEFt and was watching him do what he does and went, I know exactly what he's doing and I know exactly why it works. And it was brilliant because it was the first time in my life I felt smart. I was like, oh, I know what he's doing and I know why it's working. So I went on and studied the FasterEFt, which is now eutaptics. And, you know, the final shifts that I think I needed to happen started happening at that point because it's a combination of the NLP, the hypnotherapy, and the EFT together. And it's just such a brilliant little fix together that it's great. So that's kind of how my journey transpired. You know, along the ways, there was lots of ups and downs. I went through quite a bit of stuff, but every single thing that I went through led me to the next level and then the next level and then the next level. So it's been great. It's been a great journey.
Goodness. And when you look at you today, I mean, who would have thought you've been through so much to get to this point where you are such a beacon of light for practitioners like me. And I know you're very active in mentoring and you have so much knowledge to share. So thank you, Kim. So what would you say, you've gone on this big journey, what would you say your definition of healing is? What is it to heal?
So it's an interesting thing, and this is why I loved working under Brandon so much, because I remember sitting in my training with Brandon and Brandon standing up on a stage saying, one of the first concepts I want you to get is healing is not curing and curing is not healing. And I remember sitting there going, what in the world is she talking about? Of course healing is curing. And she was like, no, healing is not curing. And so my definition of healing comes from that, because healing is about coming back to that place of inner peace. So my business is called Inner Stillness Integrative Wellness. And that's what the journey has been about for me, is coming back to this place inside of me where I am peaceful and content and comfortable in my own skin. I like who I am today, and I'm not basing everything in my life on outside circumstances. So that to me is healing, because you can have healing and you might not cure a disease, for example, but you come to a place of peace in that disease, which quite often allows it to fall away. Yeah, so that's my definition.
I love that, because as you say, you know, it's really developing that self-love and placing all your worth and your value inside of yourself, which is taking back your power. That was
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a huge step in the process. So you can cure a disease, but if you are not at peace or loving yourself and having that place of self-worth, then there's a good chance you'll develop something else.
Wow, yeah. So that kind of leads on to the mind-body connection, because you must see a lot of healing or just changes in people's physical conditions. I'm sure a lot of people come to you with illnesses and conditions, and you work with them. So what sort of recovery do you see with this mind-body connection, and how do you describe it?
So I like to speak mostly from my own example. And that is, you know, I went to the 12-step meetings and I did get clean and sober. And 12 years in, when that happened with my little brother, I was clean and sober, but I was not at peace. I was so not at peace. And I doubted myself. I was still full of anxiety. So once I started to work on my own emotions, and once I started to use the mind-body connection, started going in and healing the references that I had from the past that were triggering so much of the emotion, that's when the peace started to come online. So what I know, and I'm sure you know because you're doing the same sort of work that I'm doing, is that the thought then sends a signal to the body and the body responds. And one of the things that most people get confused in this arena is they think that they have caused the illness themselves, but they actually haven't caused the illness. When you are in a fight, flight, freeze response for a long period of time, you have a lot of chemicals running through your body, which weakens the immune system, which then makes the immune system susceptible to all the different diseases and illnesses that are out there. So in the work that we do, as we clean up the past references, as we start to change our perception of things, then the body is not going into the fight, flight, freeze response on a regular basis, which allows the immune system to actually build itself up. In fact, Dr. Peter Stapleton, another person that I've studied under, she's done research for 12 years now on the modality of tapping. And one of the things that the research shows is a 2-hour session of tapping actually raises the IgA, which is your ability for the immune system to rebuild itself, by 144%.
So everyone should be tapping right now during this COVID crisis.
Absolutely, they should be tapping and staying out of the fear, because one of the big things with the COVID is when you're in fear, you've activated that fight, flight, freeze response. And so if you're living in fear, you've got all those chemicals running through your body and your immune system is being suppressed.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Kim, what would you say is your key takeaway for change? Someone presents with an array of problems, mental, physical, whatever it is. What is the key to changing your life?
So that changes for every person, as you probably know, but I would say one of the key takeaway is we all develop belief systems. And those belief systems we gain from a very young age, and they become rock solid as we go through life, and we find those different proofs that, oh, well, see, I really am stupid, or, oh, see, I really can't make decisions, or whatever the belief is, or I'm not enough, which is one that most people run. And you start to perceive the world through those belief systems. And so if you can't let go of that perception, then you're not going to have the healing that you're looking for. So you want to change the belief and change the perception is the main key takeaway. So how I like to frame that up to people, like I had a client just before we came here, and she has gone through multiple traumas herself. She wants to change the way she sees it, but she sees what's happened to her, all these traumas, keeping her stuck in the victim. So one of the metaphors I like to use is, what if this were your initiation? What if you went through all of this, gained the wisdom from all of that so that you could go out and help other people? And when you see the light bulb go on with people, you go, oh, isn't that great? Because she got it in that moment. That as I gained the perspective and the new wisdom, that allows me to let go of continually finding the proof of that old belief or perception.
Oh, yes. And then you suddenly not the victim, hey? And you're
right.
back in the power seat.
That's right. You're driving the bus again. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, all about beliefs. And I think it's Dr. Bruce Lipton that says he puts tapping in and a whole lot of other modalities in the category of super learning. And he says you can change a belief someone's had for 50 years in 10 minutes. And that's, yes, that's what I love about tapping. It's quick. It's modern psychology. So
it's modern psychology. And you know, the great thing about Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza is, you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza went back and got a degree in neuroscience so that as he teaches, he actually brings the science to what we do. And I love that. I love it.
Yeah, it is really good. So I'm going to ask you next, back to Kim Jewell. What gets Kim Jewell? You've gone through this whole healing journey. You're a master in so many fields. You're changing lives. What gets you up in the morning? What lights you up personally?
Oh, so the beach lights me up personally. I mean, one of the reasons that I work the way that I work now is because I have always struggled to do things in a, let's say, mainstream way. So sitting at a desk from 9 to 5 is very difficult for me. Being able to get up and go for my walk on the beach and have that free time to just, have time for me and to give back to me. But then as I work with people and I see the light bulb turn on, there is no other feeling, Darene, like that. So the other thing that drives me or gets me out of bed in the morning is teaching other people how to do this. Because we can learn modalities. This is one of the things that I discovered a long time ago. We can learn different modalities. We learn the mechanics. But there's always an art to putting that together with whoever is sitting in front of you. And when you learn how to master that art, it's like painting. It's like having a magic wand. It's like you get to sit and paint the canvas, and the client will always tell you what they want. And so it just makes it so much easier. And that lights me up to help other people learn how to do that.
Oh, wow. And that kind of brings me to the next thing is, tapping into your client, because as you say, each client is so individual, and we as practitioners have to really notice the subtle differences in how they are representing their problems so that we can help them undo it. Yeah. So you have developed a system called Systems of Change, and I believe it's strongly grounded in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and you run these courses every year. I mean, I've been one of your students for several years now, and I'm always learning more from you. So for any practitioners out there that are wondering, what is this? Can you just give us a little explanation?
So I'll give you an explanation of how Systems of Change came to be. My goal, whenever I've started learning anything, is to master that. And so I know that takes time and patience. And so for years, as I was practicing the FasterEFt and the eutaptics, I would go to Habilitat, which is a long-term substance abuse center. And that was my give back to people. With 10 other practitioners from around the world. And we would all go to this long-term substance abuse center, and we would work on clients for 10 days. And for me, I always saw that as a way to master what it was I was doing, and for the other practitioners to master it. And during that time, I got to sit with Robert Smith and watch him do many, many different sessions. And I was sitting in the back of the room one day, and I went, he's doing something different than what he teaches us. Like, all the mechanics are there, but there's something about the way he's doing it that is different. And once that little bug got in my head, I was like, I've got to find out what that is. So what I decided to do was I went back through all the material again, and I couldn't find it. And the book that the Systems of Change is based on is right back here, Monsters and Magical Sticks. That was one of our required reading. So I started reading it. I read it once and went, nope, didn't see it. Read it again, went, nope. And each time I was speed reading. And so when I speed read, I'm going through the pages very quickly, and I just tell my unconscious mind, stop on anything that's important. So I'm reading it the third time, and I got to the end of this chapter, and my fingers just stopped, and I couldn't go forward. So I went, something about this chapter. And I went back and looked at it. And in this book, Stephen Heller is talking about systems. And I went, that's an interesting concept. And I got so fascinated by what he was saying, which was basically the mind has an input system, it has an output system, and it has an out of conscious unconscious system that the individual is unaware that's driving a lot of the programming. And I had vaguely remembered Robert mentioning that in training once or twice, but like didn't go into it. So I went, oh, okay. So I went back to Habilitat. I'm all excited. We've got 10 practitioners there, and Robert's kind of smiling and laughing at me. And he goes, you think you got it? I went, I do. I think I've got it. And he goes, okay, teach it to everybody. So I got up in front of the room, and these are all advanced practitioners. And I started telling them what I learned in Monsters and Magical Sticks, and their eyes all glazed over. And I went, okay, in my training in NLP, it tells me that the nature of NLP is the response you get from your communication. And if everybody's eyes are glazing over, I'm not communicating it in a way that they're getting it. So I thought, So I went home from Habilitat at that time, and I went, how can I break this down into bite-sized chunks that people will be able to understand it? Because for me, once I discovered it, it was like having a magic wand. It was like I would go in and work with people, and they would start to have the shifts, and they would come back and go, I don't know what you did last time, but this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. And I just would smile because I'd be so excited that I found out what it was. So that is the gist of how Systems of Change came about. It is, it's a 6-week online course, and you have modules that you go through, and then once a week we meet and we go over the material again, and I answer questions. And that last week we go through examples of how you see it done with other people. One of the reasons I went back and broke it down the way that we did was because even though we've learned the material, because I don't want to say we didn't learn it, because it is very well laid out. It's one thing to learn it, and then it's another thing to experience it and get into the experience of what that means. And that's what you have in Systems of Change. We just break it down a little bit more and give you a little bit more experience so that all of a sudden you go, oh, that's why they taught me. Oh, that's why they taught me this. Oh, I see how these go together now. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's a great explanation. And I think you have to go to your training to really, really come to grips with it, because it's deep and it's exciting. It's an amazing tool to have in your toolbox. More understanding of how our clients can change. So Kim, thanks for sharing that. And I'd like to ask you now, what are your future plans?
What are my future plans? Well, one of the things that I am doing now today is, because I mentor so many people and I so enjoy teaching people, I go out and I am teaching a program called The Art of Transforming Lives, which is more a coaching course. Because that's the other thing that I found was that I was doing a little bit different, is I do a bit of coaching in my sessions as well as the tapping that I do, because tapping is still the main modality that I use. I just have found that a lot of people are not really familiar with a lot of the different coaching techniques that are out there, and also, like Systems of Change, the small finesses that make it an art rather than just mechanical steps. So that's what I'm doing these days.
So Kim, it's been so wonderful to have you on here today. You are an amazing mentor, and you've brought so much growth to all of us, so much learning. So I really appreciate it, and look forward to doing your course again and your Systems of Change. And I've no doubt that you are now ready to go and have a coffee at your favorite coffee shop, because in Australia, things have opened up and we can actually go and sit and do that. And your beach, your beautiful beach, is waiting for you. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all your wisdom. It is really much appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Darene. And just for anybody that might be interested in doing this round of Systems of Change, we're starting on June 8th. So the early bird goes for, I think, 1 more week. If you want to, you can find it on www.kimjewell.com.au. And I would love to have you guys join us. Thank you so much for having me here. I wish we could see more of each other, because even though we live close, it still seems very far, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Well, I'll be coming for a session in the near future, because I'm finishing up my level 4 training to be an advanced practitioner. So, yay.
Yay, yay, yay.
Bye for now.
Okay, thanks, Darene. Bye.
Bye.